Okay. Welcome. My name is Izabela and I'm one of the NLP practitioners. I also work with our charitable sister company, Superheroes, and this is the reason why we're here today. We're running at the moment through February and March a set of workshops for parents, and I work as a practitioner with children and parents. For the past 3 years, I trained with NLP for Kids 3 years ago, and that's how my journey began. Working in schools, primary schools at the moment, and secondary schools. I do have private sessions with families, and at the moment, obviously, everything is remote, so we work via Zoom, and as you can see now, go to training. So we're using different platforms, sometimes a WhatsApp, a video call, and that enables me to really work with families across the UK. And I did work with few families in Poland, back in my home country. And the opportunity is amazing. I never expected that is going to spread so widely, but definitely there are some benefits of being able to work remotely. And here today, we are both, myself and Mary, to answer any questions and maybe talk about what we do a little bit more and how the NLP techniques can help parents and children tackle any behavioral or emotional issues. That's it about me. Mary.
Thank you, Isabella. Hi, everybody. And my name is Mary William, and lots of similarities to what Isabella already said. I'm an NLP practitioner as well, and I've been with NLP for Kids for the past 2 years. I'm also a life coach. I work with children, with parents, and with families as well, with all members of the family, whether together or in pairs or individually, and bring them together. I run workshops as well. As Isabella said, it's been online almost for the past year. And it's actually been working really well, like much better than I thought it would. And it was such a good chance that during a challenging time like this, we are still able to offer the support that people needed the most now. I'm passionate about so many things, but I am especially very passionate about working with parents, and especially providing them the understanding and the connection that every parent needs to feel facing challenges with children, because it's sometimes difficult to feel really understood, even from the people who are around you, close to you, your friends, your members of the family. But I am passionate about offering this like deep connection and understanding to parents, so they feel that on the journey of this challenge, there is a way, there is hope, and there is a change to positivity, to calmness, to a better environment and a better life. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you. And we open the floor for questions. I think we have Melissa, Katrina, and Paula. So if any of you have any questions with regards to parenting or your children, we're here to help. We also prepared a few questions that quite commonly keep coming through the workshops or our sessions. There was a workshops for parents last night, which I attended with our mentor and founder, Gemma. So there were a few questions that came to my mind, which I probably will raise later, but just giving an opportunity to you first to maybe ask questions. Okay.
So
and we are, yes, we have a chat. So obviously, if you would like to ask the question, you can unmute yourself and ask directly, but we're also going to monitor the chat. Mary, have you had a chance to read the question?
Yes, a question from Melissa. Would you have any advice for encouraging teens to be more engaged with online learning?
Quite, I wouldn't say common, but I came across this question quite a few times already. And my children are younger, but I work with teenagers, and my background with apprentices and students, I know is challenging. And I think the main challenge for young people, especially teenagers right now, is a lack of social connections. They feel isolated and feel a bit separated from everything that they knew, everything that has been normal for them. So I know it's difficult. Encouraging teens to be more engaged. Mary, any ideas that you have?
Yeah. I wouldn't say that this is a straightforward question to answer. There isn't like one answer, here it is. But I always say, like with anything else, to encourage your children, teens or any age, but as we know, it may be more challenging with teens when they feel, I have my say, I have my view, I have my wishes. To encourage them, it's important to listen and validate, because as parents, we want them to do well. We want them to engage with learning. We want them to sort of get on and do it. We're a bit like, no, we don't want anything to get in the way. And sometimes, without noticing, we haven't spent enough time to listen to their concerns. What about it really is it that they don't like? Now, it doesn't mean that we will be able to resolve it, but I think listening, and by listening I mean without having an agenda at all, genuinely listening, genuinely hearing them out, and then validating how they feel. And validating doesn't mean agreeing, but validating, it makes sense. I see what you mean. I can understand that this is boring. I understand that that's not your first choice. I see why you wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah.
Maybe also invite them to come up with an alternative.
Yeah.
If you were the head teacher, what would you do in a situation like that? Give them a little bit of power to come up with something. What if you were the parent and you had a child and they told you this? What would you come up with? Anything that gives them power in a way that empowers them is probably going to generate some ideas, and maybe they will get to the point, it's not great, but hey, we've got to do it. That is still good, because they have been encouraged to speak up, to express how they feel. And I guess just feeling heard makes a massive difference, even if they end up having to do things they don't want, but they have been heard, and that in itself is really important.
Absolutely agree, Mary. The listening without the agenda, I think, is very important. We sometimes, and I understand because I'm a parent too, I know it's difficult, and we are also consumed with all responsibilities and busy. So sometimes actually sitting down and dedicating quality of time to our children is tricky as well, because we have to, juggle so many different tasks. But spending 5-10 minutes to listen, and instead of trying to give them advices and say, oh, you need to do that, maybe, yes, trying to actually listen what is behind it, why they don't want to, they don't want to commit. Melissa, it will be probably much easier for us to give you a little bit more specific, because the question is quite
Broad.
open. Yeah. Yes, broad. It depends on each child. There could be children that have a reason because something happened. It could be genuinely because they're bored and they don't like it. It could be their personality, because they prefer to actually attend the classes with friends when they see and they engage, and the energy is different, rather than doing that online remotely. So there is variety of reasons. And understanding them first will be probably the most important to start with. Mary, there
Yeah.
was something else you said towards the end that I wanted to comment, and it skipped my mind again. It might come back.
Yeah.
Melissa, if you have follow-up questions, please either unmute yourself or type in the chat box.
Yeah. It's,
We
by
have
the way, absolutely okay to mute yourself if you want to be more engaged in the conversation. Yes, yeah.
Yes, we have another question. Hello, my 7-year-old daughter, ASD, is telling me she doesn't want to go back to school because nobody likes her. She struggles socially and likes to be in control. How can I help her to build friendships? There will be probably quite a few or many 7, 8, 9 years old that will be struggling after all this is over, because again it will be new. It will be almost like starting school over. I will first again go back to what Mary said. Listen to your child and validate their emotions. Based on my own experience, I think the worst is to say to your child when they feel strongly about something, oh, don't worry about it, or why are you feeling scared? There is no reason to be scared of, or no, you're not right, you're wrong, everyone thinks positively about you. So validating their feelings and emotions is going to be, it will get you on their side of the playground. It will be almost like you becoming their friend, someone within their circle, and they will much easier open up to further conversation if they feel that they can trust you and you're not dismissing the way they're feeling. And there are a few NLP techniques here that we use in our workshops to build the confidence. I can see Mary want to say something, so if she
Keep
don't.
going. Okay.
All right, so the first thing I would start, actually most of the workshops that I do, I start with a communication model, but the communication model of NLP helps understand the whole process of how we communicate with the world outside and how the world outside come to us through all the 5 senses. So in that model, in that technique, we use our 5 senses. And the reason I would explain that process to a 7-year-old is to help your daughter Paula to understand how those 5 senses can impact her emotions, to explain to her how she can feel better through smells or touch or something she observes, and how important is something that maybe she heard or something she saw to get her feelings and emotions. Through that process yourself as a parent, understanding that process, you also will be able to shift and change her emotions. And that will then lead to other techniques like anchoring, submodalities. So something that we can probably describe in details in some of our other workshops. But Mary, do you have any other thoughts for a 7-year-old?
Yeah, well, I totally agree with everything you shared, Isabella. And I just want to add a very little thing, actually, a little point where the question here says that the child likes to be in control. And usually when I sort of see this word of like to be in control, I go to the child's need to feel safe and secure. And I ask myself, how is this situation making them insecure? Because when the child feels insecure, they want to counteract this feeling by being in charge, in control. What can I do? And their brain quickly wants to protect them from a situation that they are not very comfortable with. So maybe what is it that they don't feel very safe or very secure about when it comes to friendship? and deal with this bit, open up a discussion and make it okay. Maybe there are some storybooks about making friends. Maybe read some of those books, Animals and Animals Making Friends, so something that is right for the child's age. And maybe role play with the child certain scenarios. So, okay, you're not feeling quite okay approaching someone, making friendship, or say, let's suppose you want to be my friend, what could you tell me? So when you role play with your child a potential situation, or like, how can I make friends? If I want to become your friends, how can we do it? Then the child is now having a scenario playing in their head, and they are feeling calmer about it, and they are feeling more confident that they can do it. So again, listening, validating, absolutely, as you said, Izabela, don't tell them, oh, it's okay, no problem, you can do it. None of that really, because it doesn't answer how they feel.
Yeah,
And then work
absolutely.
on like equipping them with this feeling confident, secure, safe, and calm about the situation, and be happy with small steps.
Exactly. The baby steps are very important. But when you mentioned, Mary, the feeling, the need of feeling secure and being in control, what came to my mind is the 6 emotional needs.
Yeah.
So that's something that could be helpful for a parent to watch and understand, because it is for a child any age, and us as an adults, we do have an emotional needs, and we do behave certain way for a purpose. There is a purpose that our mind, our brain need to feel connected, have it fulfilled, and sometimes understanding those needs and what is behind the behavior, it helps us to turn the situation around. When you also mentioned, Mary, so thank you for actually moving parts in my brain and opening up. When you mention the role play, I remember having, it was an 8-year-old boy that struggled with self-confidence, but it was more of he wouldn't go and play football during the breakdown because he thought that he isn't good enough and kids will laugh at him and he will not enjoy it. When they had like a art projects with other friends and teacher was splitting them into teams, he wouldn't participate because he was afraid that someone will laugh or tell him that he isn't really talented in any sorts of art. So it became difficult for a teacher to assess his abilities if he wasn't even engaging. And when mom or dad ask what happened and how they can help, or even the teacher, he wouldn't want to talk about, to the point that he was withdrawing and shutting down and not saying anything. What helped in our session to give him a power of being the advisor. So speaking about the same situation in a third person. It wasn't him, he was helping his friends. So sometimes it is difficult for children, young people, to say, oh, the problem is with me, I'm doing something, or there is something inside of me that is stopping me from doing something. But if you ask a child, imagine there is I heard maybe about Izabela in your class, that she's having a problems, how would you help her? And then as a good friend, he might come up with some ideas, with some, oh, maybe she can try this or that. I think that opens up many doors, because the child sees those opportunities for himself, for herself, and there is also a power in hearing it. So if the child is saying it to mom or dad in a conversation about someone else, about a third person, who doesn't have an identity of me, it absolutely helps to clear the clouds in their mind, and they might find the solutions for themselves without even our help.
Absolutely. And if I can add something else, also asking questions to the children has another benefit. Because as you probably already know, we have a left brain, which is the thinking brain, and the right brain, which is the emotional brain. And when children are worried, scared, anxious, there's an overwhelm of emotions. So the right brain is also somehow taking over. And when we ask a question, it's a way of engaging the left brain, engaging the thinking brain. And when we engage the thinking brain, automatically we're calming the emotions down. So we're actually reducing the worry, the anxiety by just posing a question and engaging the left brain.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mary. That was fantastic. Paula, I hope that was clear and that was enough, but please feel free to let us know if you need any further information. We've got another question from Erica. I have a 7-year-old client I am coaching. He has developed avoidance strategies in controlling this session. He avoids questions about his own feelings. He will play, mute me on Zoom, ignore. He is not comfortable communicating verbally, but will give thumbs up or down or answer yes or no, but will not respond to open-ended questions. In story, show and tell, drawing, role play, he only will respond to close-ended questions. Appreciate your feedback on games activities to support him.
Yeah.
Erica, there is, sorry, Mary.
No. It's okay. I just checking if there's more information, because I was wondering.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask a little bit more about. What's the reason maybe why you're working with him? Because you're telling us about your sessions and your interactions, but the way he's behaving with you, it could be caused by obviously the reason he come to you. So if you could, I understand that there is confidentiality, but obviously without disclosing too much, if you can share a little bit more with us, it will definitely help to give you some tips on how you can work with the child.
Yeah, and also possibly if there's any diagnosis of maybe ADHD, autism, anything else that may shed some light. And maybe I could share something while Erica hopefully is providing more information, so we are more specific in our answer. I work with an 8-year-old who was recently diagnosed with ADHD, and some of what you described, Erica, I mean, not quite exactly, but some of it, I have seen starting to work with this child. He didn't want to stay in front of the screen. He wouldn't answer any question about his feelings specifically. He was coming to me because he was scared going upstairs, being in the room on his own. And he doesn't want to talk about the problems. So the question is, what do you actually do when you want to solve this problem? And he doesn't want to talk about this problem. I want to say that it's going very well, just to give you this reassurance. And you start with the child's point of strength. So one of his points of strength is like imagination. He's very good with imagination. He'll talk about anything, imagine, come up with a story. So tell him, for example, we're going today to create a scene about whatever, robots, monsters, animals, whatever. And he also likes to draw. So he could draw and show me what he's doing. Then I ask him questions about those characters. Naturally, some of how he feels is going to come out, but he's not saying, I feel this. So he's going to say, oh, he's brave, he's scared, he's whatever. So that's a good way. You pretend that it's all those characters, not him, but
Yes.
also ask him questions to come up with solutions for those characters. Then sometimes I'd say, oh, I feel a little bit like this character you created. What can I do? Get him to advise me as well. Because in a way, subtly, you're saying, I as a human being experience this, and try to make it okay for him to sort of experience this. The other thing that I found helpful is sort of flexibility. And I know you go maybe prepared with something in the session, so it's not the easiest thing. But what I mean by flexibility is when the child is not very responsive to what you planned, be prepared to change it completely. Because from my experience, just pushing and insisting that the child does and answer the question and just trying to get as much as you can, does the child switches off, and when they switch off, they basically can't say anything. So be flexible and show the child that you're choosing to be flexible, because there's the risk of the child saying no to everything and then they dominate the session. So there's like a fine line here of be flexible, but show the child that this is your choice. Okay, no problem, we'll come to this later, and then bring something else. Or why don't you tell me, or how about? And this sort of flexibility, again, a lot of listening and a lot of following the pace of the child is another thing, because with this particular child, he needs time to come up with the answer. So, so feel okay with the silence. And it took me a couple of sessions to actually figure out how much time he needs to think and come up with the answer. And there's a risk of interrupting his thought pattern if we don't allow this time. So be okay to give them time, because it is possible that they need a little bit longer to come up with an answer. I need to check if this.
I love the part about storytelling, Mary, and I think that will that could be helpful to Erika as well with this child. What I love the most is that third person again, so it's easier to speak about another character, imaginary character, or someone else rather than yourself. And what came to my mind, I used in classroom, in workshops with children when the schools were still open, I used the Rory cubes. So that's something that could be a prompt for the conversation or creation of the story. And the Rory cubes are, you can buy them on Amazon or other online stores. And they are tiny cubes with the pictures on them that helps to start the story. We just roll the dice and whatever picture it lands on, we start creating the stories. But I know I don't have them and haven't used them online remotely, so that will be tricky to figure it out how to do that. But they are also cubes with the beginning of the sentences. So each side of the cube will have once upon a time, or today I went, or let's talk about. So there will be a starters of a sentence. That's something that maybe you can roll the dice and then show the little boy to a camera and he can finish the sentence, and you do that in turns. Or maybe ask his parents to purchase those and try to play with him at home and see if he will find the creative way of having conversations more engaging and more fun. And I remember there was a game with a piece of paper that we ran where you write a sentence, you roll down so no one, the next person can't see it, and then you write it. So you could do that over Zoom or any remote software that you're using. You write one sentence, the difference is you don't have to roll the paper, because he won't physically see what you wrote, and then he writes a sentence, and then you write another one, and at the end you're reading some kind of crazy story, but you could hide in your sentences the conversation about the challenges that he's having. So creating a story that might not have any logic, but will have some of those words that we want to hear the answers to hidden in those sentences.
I love this idea. There's more from Erika, so
Okay.
will I read what she added, because I think that's going to be very helpful. Okay, so Erika said he will not elaborate on story. I get very short words, or he will go silent. She also says we have great rapport. He's very kinesthetic, loves drawing and movement. That's great. He has an IEP, but no diagnosis of autism or ADHD, although I'm suspecting some minor autism tendencies. Yeah, that makes sense. Yes, I've noticed that I need to be quiet and allow him a lot of time to have any response. Yeah, that's spot on. I have been doing storytelling and drawing and role playing, but he doesn't elaborate on story, says I don't know or very little information unless I give him options like, is he happy or sad? Yeah.
Yeah, and I can see that Erica said that he has an IEP and suspecting some minor autism. Yes, so I wanted to suggest, because you said that he only likes to speak short words, you know, the fact that he only knows happy and sad, that's with the many children as well, because sometimes we just see bad and good and we don't really see what happened and how many emotions is under each. But definitely if he's not able or not comfortable speaking full sentences, maybe there is something more, and I would definitely suggest to parents to look into that.
That's right. There's quite lots of cards and pictures to show emotions, and the child could just point to them.
Okay, unless I give him. There is one book, actually there are two books, part 1 and 2, that comes to my mind now, and it could help you, Erika. Let me actually bring them. Mary, do you mind if I just
No,
mute myself and just go and grab them? It will be easier if I just...
That's fine. And Erica, or please, if you would like to unmute yourself or say more, feel free to do that while Isabella grabbing the books.
Oh, hi. Thank you so much for all your wonderful suggestions. Yeah, this has been sort of a conundrum for me. I know that the parents came to me because, you know, he's very loving. He's very happy child. It's funny, I've done a lot of drawing activities with him, and the stuff I'm finding is fascinating. I just don't know where to take him. Do you know what I mean? Like, I did a body map with him. We went over like the emotion wheels. We identified it in the body. You know, I had to lead him a little bit in some areas, but like when I had at the bottom, it said like happy, sad, angry, you know, whatever. He only identified the happy, colored in the happy. He found happy was in his head. He identified happy as being in his head, but almost like just ignored, right? If I show him the wheel, if I tell him a story and I say, okay, well, do you think that person is what? You know, and if I give him choices, he can do angry, he can do disappointed, he can do all this stuff. But when I ask him about him, no, he's not going. He's going to ignore me, or he's going to say it's a secret, or he's going to say nothing, or he's going to go play. Yeah. I also noticed some like trying to control the session. Like if I give him options, it's going to be like none, even if I know he loves drawing and stuff like that. So I was just thinking of putting like almost a visual map of our agenda down of like, here's what we're going to do here, here, and here. Now you choose which one you want to do now, you know. But sort of my biggest thing is really like, how can I get him from this place where he's not communicating what's going on, and he's forcing the person that's communicating with him to ask the question of like, oh, is it this or this or this? And then it becomes a guessing game. Like, we don't really know how he's feeling. And I'll just say one last thing before you respond is his mom had told me like he has these random outbursts every once in a while. Like, for example, she was cleaning up his things and found a picture of like a woman that was like pregnant that he drew. So she showed it to him and she goes, oh, you know, I found this picture, and he flipped. He was like, ah! He like grabbed it. He was like, he was so angry, and then he just started hysterically crying, and then he hugged her. And then she was like, you know, like, it's okay. And she was like, you know, trying to ask him questions about what was going on. He would not respond. And, you know, she was playing the guessing game of, and I'm like, this is exactly with that minus the outburst. There's, you know, this like guessing game of like what's actually happening in his head. Even sometimes in the session, if he wants to do something, he'll mute me, not tell me what he's going to do. and like go get colored pencils or go do something else. Like he doesn't communicate what's going on for him. And so I think that I want to be able to do activities and games that are going to help support him to get him where he is, to maybe just learning how to feel safe in communicating.
Yeah.
So
Erica,
thank you.
how long have you been working with him, if you don't mind me asking?
So not super long, a couple of months. So I did 8 weeks with him, regularly 2 times a week for 30 minutes. And we really worked on like having to see if I was kind of assessing, does he understand feeling words, like just to kind of get all the information that I just shared with you. And now the past couple weeks for another 8-week block, I'm working with him now. Okay, now that I know what his foundation is, how do I start to get him to feel safe and confident about verbalizing or communicating in his own way, whatever that looks like, what he's feeling and what's going on. And this is where I'm struggling a little bit.
Yes, yes.
Erica,
Definitely.
sorry, there is something that came to my mind. Is the boy bilingual? So is English his second language?
No, it's not.
No, it's
Yeah,
not.
no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to double check before we try anything else. So I managed to find the cubes as well.
Nice.
So those are the Rory's cubes, and they are different. They are for boys, for girls. Maybe that's something for the parents to play with him, and you know, maybe he just benefits from having a bit of attention and time with parents. There is also something I used in schools and find very helpful, especially with the little ones when they struggle. And again, that's quite common that they find easier to describe emotions on others and read others people body language or facial mimics than describe what is happening in their own mind. So this is definitely brilliant. I still wanted to find one book, which we mentioned yesterday in a workshop with Gemma. She mentioned the grown-up version for parents, but I very often lean on the book of Steve Peters, Hidden Chimp. Not sure if you heard about it, Erica. I have a look
No.
here if I've got it in this room as well. Or maybe I can share a screen if I find it on Amazon to show you. But those are the books that I also use. Gosh, the hippopotamus and the metaphors are so amazing stories for children. So you could even, you know, choose one that addressed a topic that you find important and read it to him in a session, or again ask parents to read with him. And there are two sets. So there is book 1 and 2. That's a volume 1. Harry the hippopotamus. They very, very good stories about animals and what challenges they're having, whether they are shy, and how they overcome those challenges. And again, it helps them to have the conversation. Oh, so what happened to Zebra? Or what happened to Harry Hippo? What would you help him? Or how would you say he could do something? That again could just trigger the imagination and a bit of creativity.
So
Something to
yeah,
try.
so I love those. And you know what I did, he loves Pete the Cat and Paw
Oh, brilliant.
Patrol. So I brought in those things. We had a great episode of Pete the Cat because again, this is him taking control. He literally like hijacked the session and was like screen shared Pete the Cat. So I was like, all right, I'm going to utilize this. So I utilized Pete the Cat and was like, okay, Pete the Cat had his brother broke his foot and he was super sad. So they were all trying to like figure out, okay, how we're going to cheer up his brother. So use this. This is like gold for feelings. And he would not respond. He would just like, yeah, he would just be like, and then I even asked him like if he gets to like, I don't know. I was like, some kids really, you know, if they say I don't know, they really don't know. And then there are some kids who say I don't know and they really know, but they don't want to tell me. Which kid are you? And in some instances, so in that instance, he was like, he was distracted. He did know, but he didn't want to tell me. Like it's a secret. And then there's another where he's just like, I really don't know. But I did that early on. Part of it was he wouldn't answer me, but he wouldn't tell me what was going on because he lost the screen. He couldn't see me.
Okay.
So he was distracted by the fact he couldn't see me, and then he wouldn't answer the question. But mostly he just doesn't answer the question. If it has to do with him or whatever, he's just not going to answer. So as much as I'd love to be like, okay, yeah, here's this story and tell me what you think is happening next, he's not going to answer. And that's what's been difficult unless I give him choices. So I've even tried closed questions. So I do 3 closed questions and then ask an open one to see if then he'll respond to an open one. And he still doesn't really, but he gets confidence with the closed questions. So I'm not 100% sure how to get him from A to B.
Erica, would he create his own story if you guide him and create the story with him?
I don't know. I mean, I'm definitely willing to try. I mean, I did try a drawing exercise, and he loves to draw, so he'll draw. And then I figured, tell me the story. Like you tell me what's happening in this picture. And he didn't really go there. Again, I had to ask him closed questions. Show and tell, he can tell me exactly what's going on because it's very concrete. But if he has to make up a story about it, it's not happening.
But make a story maybe step by step, because I was working with a child who was 8. The mom said he's got problems at school, but he doesn't want to talk about it. So we're going to create a story about a school, and this is my school and his school. What are we going to call the school? How many classes do we have in school? And who's is she a male or female? How many? And actually lead him. So he's saying the story, but you're leading him through the story. And then he could come up with a funny name to the teacher. What's special about him? We can make him wear a special hat, and what color, and what does this make him with this hat? And see if you could elicit like this, but like question by question, and he's drawing it, and you're making the story together. And in your head, you almost have the outline of the story, but he gives you the detail.
Yes, love that. That's great. Because then I can ask closed questions. I could occasionally throw, like, if I said to name a character, I think he would probably do that, because I've done that once with him before, or I had him name a teddy bear. I don't remember how I was using it, but he did. So, yeah, I think that's brilliant.
And he will feel in control as well, because
Yes.
he's coming up with those ideas. He will be almost in control of the session. And it is okay, I don't like this. Okay, we're not going to keep this rule in this school. And so you are actually responding to him, but you're also making choice. So you are still in control too of the session. So in a way, you're agreeing that maybe we'll leave this idea. Let's then think of so and so.
Right. No, that's really nice, because I think it's the best of both worlds. It gives him an opportunity, like you said, to be in control, but also I get an opportunity to lead him and see if I can, garner some information that would help him think, differently. And it's just another way of communicating. So, yeah.
If you wanted to use some NLP techniques there as you do the story, if the character is scary, tell him, let's make him shorter, let's make him smaller, let's push him to the corner. And then you're changing the submodalities in his brain, but through his story. So you may be then indirectly helping him with different negative emotions that he feels.
Yeah, and you know what? That's really interesting because he doesn't identify with any negative emotions. So he says, right? He will only identify happy, sad, happy, excited, or silly. That's it. Although I did garner out of him once in a session that about anger, when someone touches his stuff. I don't remember if I got it out of a story. It was like the slightest nugget. It was so subtle. And so I do know, and that is in line with what his parents report in terms of occasional outbursts where he doesn't talk about what's going on, but he doesn't acknowledge it.
Yeah. And I can't say for sure, but I'll tell you what's coming to mind. Some children have ADHD with some OCD. I have read recently a lot about how common this is, and some of the don't touch my stuffs could be some OCD there to some degree.
Yeah.
You reckon this may be the case? I don't know. But I want to give you reassurance and encouragement, Erica, because your presence with him in the session is making the difference already. And I know you'd naturally be very conscientious and very keen to give him as much as you can, move him from point A to B, from B to C. But your presence, just being present with him, is already moving him from A to B until he's ready to move further with you.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. I keep trying to remind myself that all of this is sinking in for him in some way, and that, you know, I mean, there aren't a lot of kids getting this type of coaching and attention. So, you know, he's already ahead of the game. And then on the other tail, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm making any progress. So, you know, but that's me. That's my issue.
Erica, you're doing a great job, absolutely. Sorry for just breaking in. I shared my screen, but I just want to check if you can see the my hidden chin book.
Yes, I can see.
All right, brilliant. So I'm just going to stop. Right.
Excellent. And then just Izabela, the cubes that you shared, how do you spell that? The title, the name of that?
They are gosh, can you see it? Rory
Oh, story cubes.
Yes, they Rory. So I think I like them because the pictures are nicer. They are a variety of different story cubes.
Gotcha.
This is the Fantasia version for the girls, and there is more of boys type of stories. Oh, this way. So with planes, with turtles, with cars. And those are with pictures, but they are ones, and I don't have them here, I left them in the school, with the sentence starters. So each side of the cube will have the beginning of a sentence.
Perfect. Thank you for re-showing those.
Welcome.
These are great resources. I'm really grateful for you guys and for having this platform for just to be able to ask open-ended questions, because I'm just trying to garner as much information as I can to be able to support him. So I really appreciate it.
It's definitely important, because I think Mary would agree with me that we lean on each other a lot. So we have a group and we support each other a lot. And whenever I feel stuck with something, I can just post in a group, and people either who's got more experience or maybe work with the children or families or parents and you know already address the issues that I haven't yet. They will just share their experience.
Yes.
Are there any other questions? And apart from questions, we also welcome you to share. So this is also a platform where you could share your experiences, your observations, your feedback, anything maybe if you've tried before, and you could add on to what we're saying here. I definitely don't feel like a guru and that I know everything. So if any of you have something to add on to our comments, please also feel free to do so. Do we have any more questions? Just checking the chat.
So Paula said, I love the role play idea. Thank you so much, both of you. Thank you, Paula. That's great.
I don't see any more questions in the chat. Is there any more topics that one of you or any of you would like to discuss here today? We're going to have more Q&A. I'm not sure. Mary, do you have the schedule open? When is the next?
17th, I believe.
Yeah, somewhere. Yeah. So yes, there will be more Q&A. If there is anything coming later to your mind that you would like to come and pick our brains, then please do. And today, any more before we say goodbyes? Mary, maybe we share some of those that we've discussed briefly earlier today that came. Do you have any that you would like, or maybe a case study, something that will help out?
Yeah, we can. Should we double check? No more questions at all?
At the moment.
Yeah. We spoke about timeout earlier today, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I always say that timeout is like a controversial topic. Like some parents would say, well, the child isn't listening, is misbehaving, isn't doing this, it's chaotic, send them to timeout. And actually, maybe we pose the question to everyone and see what people think about this before we share some thoughts. So maybe any thoughts from anyone about timeout? Is it good? Is it recommended? How do we do it? How long? What for? Any ideas there?
Paula says that she uses timeout. Paula, do you mind sharing a little bit more? Oh, time in.
Yeah, I use time in as well. That's any thoughts? Right. What I was actually thinking is it's important to say to ourselves, what is timeout going to achieve? I need to answer this question for myself before I send the child to timeout. And timeout is a way of disciplining that is quite common. And for some children it works, for some it doesn't. And this is important to actually ask myself, what will this achieve for my child? What will it help them learn? Because discipline is teaching. Discipline isn't punishment, discipline is teaching. So what will timeout teach my child? Is the child going to learn something from timeout and learn it positively? Or is the child going to feel shame in timeout? And I like time in. Paul has written time in, and that's how I do time in. Time in is you say to you stay with your child for 5 minutes, for whatever this time is. You then don't send them to the room, you don't send them to a place where they're going to feel isolated and feel ashamed of what they've done. But you are there, you're present, because the last thing the child who have behaved in a way that you dislike, the last thing they want to feel is we're abandoned, we're on our own now, we're ashamed of what we've done, because this feeling of shame creates a trauma in the brain of the child and it doesn't help them learn. Whereas time in is you are sitting, you're available, but you're not actually engaging in a conversation. You're helping them calm down. You're helping them regulate their emotions, and you're present until they are ready to talk about it. And because you are present, they need you the most when they have behaved in a way they don't like. And because you're present, but you're not engaging yet in a conversation, you're saying, I'm not pushing you away because you've made this mistake. I am here. And when they've calmed down, this becomes an opportunity to actually talk about what happened. Let's look at what happened. What might you have been feeling then? Like, what were you feeling when you decided to drop the glass and break? What were you feeling then? What happened today? What was going on for you? And maybe the child is upset because someone said something, a friend said something that made the child upset, or maybe the child is upset because they feel that their sibling has gained something that they haven't. So you are dealing with what led to their behavior. And what quite often happens is the child quickly figures out what's happened, and actually they apologize without you even pointing out that that was wrong. So these are my thoughts, and I know that everyone will have their view, but they are thoughts obviously up for discussion. I don't know if you have anything to add, Isabel. Agree, disagree?
Well, I wanted to ask if I can challenge you on this.
Of course.
And the reason for it is I can totally see the time in with my kids because they're young, they're 9 and 7. And I can totally see the time in sitting with them and being present with any younger age. But I'm just, having the picture of some of those, I can't remember exactly the title of the show, when the nanny turns up into people's house and is trying to help them with the horribly behaving child, and she always timed them out. And, I can't imagine timing in with a teenager. So
Yeah.
one who's got, a lot of emotions and hormones and all that. And sometimes they feel like parents are their worst enemy. And when they're being told off for doing something, I don't know. I don't have teenagers yet. I worked with many, and mainly in the school environments or work professional environment apprentices. So I never had to time them out or in. But from your experience, do you think it would work with the older age?
To be absolutely honest, I have not tried it with the older
Right.
age. I was just thinking 8 and under, but I
Yes,
feel
that's loving and caring. So it's definitely something that they need. But some of those that have already stronger opinions and personalities, I wonder whether that love and caring would be enough.
Yeah.
Let's see if we comment. Paula, sometimes my daughter chooses to take herself away for a few minutes to calm herself. And that's lovely. That's brilliant, because so early they learn to do that. And I remember working with, and that's a case of, well, not a teenager, that was a young man. So he was an apprentice and I was his coach. He was doing business administration apprenticeship and had worked in one of the leading IT software companies. And he's got, but when I worked with him, he had a minor autism and ADHD issues. And I think the biggest challenge was for him to be in the team meetings when something didn't go the way that he expected, or maybe he was delivering a presentation or a project and someone challenged him on it. And I remember the first time when we spoke about that, and I suggested maybe just take 5 minutes. What's wrong with telling your boss or your teammates, I just need 5 minutes, and step outside before you explode? So we did some of the NLP techniques to help him identify when that feeling and emotion is coming up, and at which point he sees the red light and he needs to go. And I think a month later, when I arrived, he said, you know what, it worked. It absolutely worked. When I felt that way, that I'm going to explode and say things that are inappropriate or that I would regret later, or that can have a negative impact on my career here, I just say, I need 5 minutes. I step outside, get some fresh air, a few deep breaths, and calm myself down. He even showed it to me. So he showed his tense body that he was clenching his fist just to get that anger out. but it helped him to do it outside rather than exploding in front of his teammate. So yes, time out at work.
Definitely, and definitely it's important to look at the age group and what works with the child, thinking of the outcome it's going to achieve. Yeah, absolutely. There's a comment here from...
Oh, I don't think my teen would not like time in. And that's beautiful when at that age they still love the hug and closeness, and they feel safer, isn't it? Because I can imagine that at any age, sometimes I would love a time in. Honestly, if I feel really grumpy, I would love someone to just sit next to me and not to say a word, just to sit in silence. And sometimes silence has a strong power. We underestimate, and I've learned that in primary schools as well. When I came into screaming classroom, lowering my voice and actually whispering almost, or giving them a silence treatment. I know it sounds horrible. It does something.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any comments, observations, feedback, your own experience?
Just wondering, is anyone trying to unmute themselves but can't?
I think Paula mentioned that she couldn't, but I've seen her logging out and logging back in. Not sure if she tried to unmute herself since.
Anyone has a question, a comment, anything to share? Please feel free to type or unmute yourself. Isabella, do you have a common question to share while we're just checking if there are any more questions?
I think just quickly referring back to the session yesterday, it was about guilt and how we deal with guilt, how we can tackle. And the main learning from that session was that we process the guilt rather than try to get rid of it or try to quiet down or ignore it. And the question that came to me really out of that conversation was, how do we process that guilt? What do we do, like practically, step by step, to really process the feeling of guilt? And we talk about lots of different levels of feeling guilty, about parents separating, or maybe my own case of spending too much time with my clients rather than my own children. My own daughter came and said to me, "Mommy, you're spending more time with those other children than with us." And I had to process that. It took me a while. Moments of guilt when I just don't have time to clean the room, or I realized that it's already 6 or 7 o'clock and I have to order takeaway because I didn't cook dinner, anything that would be fairly safe for the kids to eat. So all those moments of
for the takeaways.
But honestly, sometimes my head is just so much into things that I do, and with the homeschooling and everything, that it's almost 4 or 5 o'clock, and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't take a meat out of the freezer or something, lots of different reasons. And I'm sure not only me, but many parents feel guilty about that. I want to cook healthy and I want to provide a good food, nutritious, lots of vitamins and something healthy to keep their brains and their bodies going through all this nonsense with the lockdown. And then the guilt kicks in. So for me, the answer when I thought about it last night was to take time to really, as you said earlier with something else, to break it down to those micro, tiny steps. And in one of the books of the Eastern philosophers, I read that the journey of 1,000,000 miles starts with the first step.
That's right.
And it would be taking that first step, but being kind to yourself. So really thinking about, okay, what do I really feel guilty about? Is it about me, or is it about the child, or what's the situation? And finding, is there anything I can do about it, or was there anything I could do differently? How is that guilt going to help me forward? So just moving slowly, step by step, and asking yourself those questions, accepting what comes. So all the emotions and feelings that come through your mind, they are there for a reason. And accepting them, acknowledging them, and asking yourself a question again, for what purpose or for what reason? How is that benefiting, or how can I move forward? And just doing these tiny, tiny steps and giving yourself time.
Yeah, that's very important. Yeah, definitely.
Right, I don't see, Mary, any more questions in the chat. And
Yeah.
unless someone wants to quickly unmute and shout out, we're going to be ending today's sessions, and I invite you for tomorrow. Tomorrow we will have another session that will be just me. So if you have any more questions, you can also attend our next Q&As. And I welcome all of you to join as many as you can of the workshops. Take the opportunity of us being here for you and sharing our knowledge and our experience throughout those 2 months, February and March. One more thing I want to also point you towards is our membership. And I think first 30 days is only £1.
Yeah.
I will ask Gemma to send emails tomorrow with the link. So if you're interested, you can test the membership, and that's a platform with all that we know, everything that we've learned. Yes, all these resources, all the techniques, some videos, some interesting podcasts and articles. So definitely a lot to tuck into. And first 30 days, just £1. You definitely can benefit a lot for £1.
Definitely. Yeah.
Anything, anyone? Mary, would you like to add anything else? Have I forgotten anything?
No, I think we covered everything, and I can't see any more questions in the chat box.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. Mary, thank you for being here with me today. It's definitely much nicer to have a companion rather than being here on your own. So thank you. And thank you, parents, for being here with us tonight as well. And please pop in and have a look on our workshops and the membership page. Take care. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.